for the island of Guam. It's 9:04 into the KUAM News Zoom room. We go where we're just very honored to have FSM President David Panuelo in our KUAM News Zoom room. Good morning, Mr. President.
Hey, good morning, Chris and Sabrina. How are you all doing?
We're doing all right.
All very good. And you're currently on Guam right now, right?
Correct. We've just completed our high-level defense talks with the U.S. Indo-PACOM and then heading home. So currently in Guam and glad to be in your part of the paradise, coming from paradise to another paradise.
That's right. And I guess we'll just start there. You said high-level defense talks. We have seen reports that you guys have secured an arrangement with the United States to build a base in the FSM. Are you able to tell us any other details?
Well, yeah, first of all, with the U.S., we have the political, economic, and defense cooperation embedded in the Compact of Free Association, as everybody knows. And we would normally have those defense talks annually, but because of the COVID, it's kind of protracted that, and then we finally had that one materialize. So it was a very productive meeting. We did talk about, conventional and non-conventional type of threats. And you know what this means in this world today. So I won't be able to go into detail, but I won't confirm nor deny about military base, but through our defense ties under the umbrella of defense ties, it does look at everything. And, the relationship is unique. Our young men and women also serve in the U.S. Armed Forces, even though we're a sovereign nation. And so you can see how unique that is. Actually, we serve at a higher per capita rate than any of the U.S. States. So security, conventional security is something we talk about. And then non-conventional security is climate change, which is something that the U.S. recognizes clearly. This time through the Biden administration, as they just signed on to the Paris Agreement. And so part of my meetings was Indo-PACOM and the governor of Hawaii, Governor Ike. We talked about the next meeting of the Pacific Island Conference of Leaders, which I am currently the chair. And a couple of days ago, I signed a letter to President Biden to invite him to come to Hawaii in our next meeting to, in person, open the meeting with the 20 or so Pacific island nations and territories like Guam and Hawaii in that meeting. So we look forward to materializing that there. Thank you.
Did you say that you met with high-level defense officials? Was the meetings were in Hawaii or here in Guam?
It's in Hawaii.
Okay.
PACOM headquarters is based at Camp Smith in Honolulu. So it was in Hawaii, and a meeting with Admiral Aquilino was a very good one. As you know, the Indo-PACOM has an area of responsibility that covers over 50% of the world population. Wow. And so that's an awesome responsibility with the Indo-PACOM, and we had a very good briefing on the mutual interests relating to defense and climate change and related activities.
No, I just asked that because we do know that there is a high-level military official on Guam.
Oh, that too.
And there's going to be a conference later today. Are you meeting? Why are you here on Guam? Just curious. Are you on vacation?
Well, we're going back home, as you know.
Okay.
And so we came back, and we also joined the yesterday's or a day ago or so the ceremony of the U.S. Coast Guard, which your acting governor also attended. Was a very good good ceremony to recognize the presence of the U.S. Coast Guard force in Micronesia.
So you were here on Guam when the governor made the announcement about acting governor made the announcement about herd immunity. And so I wanted to follow up on the vaccination efforts in the FSM because I understand that there's been some developments with regard to mandatory vaccinations.
Yes. Yeah, well, thank you all. I was listening. I met the acting governor at the U.S. Coast Guard ceremony to commission those 3 vessels, rapid response cutters. And I also watched him on live yesterday. I want to congratulate the government Guam and the Guam people for reaching herd immunity, 80+% on your vaccination. So that's an awesome achievement. And you're right, we received news from our Congress. I called a session of Congress to be convened on some emergency issues, including our emergency declaration, the resolution, to look at amending it so that we can take care of our people who are infected, recovered, and are no longer infectious. That protocol to be amended to take care of them so that they can also return home upon that medical confirmation. So right now, FSM is above a little bit above 50% in terms of fully vaccinated, and then about 55 on the first dose. And then the variations in our states are somewhere around there. Some of the states are higher than 50%, and some are a little lower because of the challenge of vaccinating our eligible citizens within the main islands and also outer islands. So we're utilizing our transport assets to really get our medical folks out into the remote areas throughout the FSM. So far, we've been successful. As you know, we're still a COVID-19 free country. We had 2 cases that popped, both one in Bombay and one in Kusai. Both are confirmed to be non-infectious, historical. And so we're back to COVID-19 free, and what Guam is doing is good news. We're happy with the Guam population. My goal as president of the FSM is also to reach herd immunity. I've made statements loud and clear that we want to reach at least 70% herd immunity, and the Congress has recently taken on board to officialize that target, and also making it mandatory through the resolution that citizens who are eligible to get vaccinated as quickly as possible so that we can move from COVID-19 free to COVID-19 protected or COVID-19 safe.
Can you just kind of clarify, you mentioned the 2 that popped positive. Were those 2 from repatriation flights?
Correct. They are from, repatriation flights, and also the vessel, if you remember, the Chief Milo that I authorized to return from the Philippines with the crew and the boy that was lost at sea. And then they came back, but they got tested in the Philippines, and the results were negative. And the tests are pretty sensitive. So when they came into Bombay and we administered the tests, one of the historical also showed positive. But upon further review by our medical professionals, we applied the antigen test to really find out medically, to confirm with authority that they are non-infectious and indeed historical, and that was the case. And so the CDC and WHO also reviewed the outcome of that, and then determined to be the case. So they declared FSM again COVID-19 free. And the recent case is also similar. They left Guam. It was tested negative. When they went to Kusai, first direct repatriation to Kusai State, as they've always been coming to Bombay, our capital. And so this minor was tested positive, and they retested it, and the antigen confirmed that he's non-infectious and historical. And these are important developments because our medical professionals are trained by the CDC, and we're getting guidance by WHO, and so they're very authoritative and very reassuring that it is historical and it's not infectious. But the boy in Kusai is still in quarantine because we've extended it to 14 days instead of 7 days, just to be certain and give peace of mind to the community before he rejoins family and the community.
Mr. President, I know it's early in the game for this question, but a lot of people are traveling, and I know that a lot of people like to travel into the FSM who aren't necessarily residents there. So do you have any type of anticipated timelines for the reopening of the FSM?
Thanks, Chris. Well, in a way we've reopened, but in a cautious way because our repatriation flights have started in May, as you are aware. So we've had 8 flights so far of repatriation of our citizens and residents in the FSM. And so we've done about 400 plus already within this time, 8 flights. And then officially we may be looking at 400 to 500 additional, people who are really stranded by that definition. And the flights are continuing. As a matter of fact, one left yesterday with 60 plus individuals into the FSM. They were all tested negative. And then we have another flight at the latter part of the month of August that would continue. And essential workers and essential folks who are coming into the FSM, like FAA, we talked with FAA in Hawaii, and technical people who are needed. Some of our folks, officials who are coming back for our constitutional convention is one that's suspended because of the COVID-19. They're also being prioritized, but citizens, including patients and students who could not really fend for themselves financially, are among the prioritized citizens who are being returned. And so it's taking time, but these schedules of flights are certain that it's at least 2 flights a month, and 60 plus, because that's the capacity we have. So we're trying to be cautious while being realistic about anticipation of our citizens as they have been stranded long. And then I ask for patience, because our population is vulnerable to this virus, and we want to protect our population, and it calls for tough leadership decisions. And I have been decisive as president of the nation, as I value the lives, and because decisions do save lives. And as we're growing with the vaccination, Chris and Sabrina, like Guam, I think as we escalate up the ladder in terms of vaccination rates, and if we reach immunity, herd immunity, like Guam has, we're going to continue to relax these COVID-19 restrictions. And so I think we're heading in the right direction, and we're confident that we're going to reach like Guam currently has reached. And I know you're having that celebratory tone of reaching herd immunity. So we're getting there, and it's a tough one because Guam is one island, right?
Yeah.
FSM is 607 islands, and so in the town centers is a little bit easier, but we're utilizing our transport assets, patrol boats, regular field trips to get our health folks, immunization folks, who get out in these remote islands and vaccinate as many as possible. And fortunately, FSM ties with the U.S., as you know. We received, as a matter of, you won't believe it, but when I met Governor Hike, he said, FSM received the vaccines before Hawaii did.
Yeah.
And so, that brings home the fact that we are part of the homeland in terms of our relations with the U.S., even though we're a sovereign nation. So you can see how refreshing it is with this close alliance with the United States, like Guam does. You're a territory, but we are a sovereign nation, and yet we have this kind of close alliance with the U.S. that makes us U.S. treats us like a homeland, part of the homeland in terms of vaccination, security, and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Well, in keeping with that close alliance with the United States, I remember when we first started reporting back in May about the first repatriation flight, and I think it was a letter that you had wrote to the U.S. government. There was this effort where the U.S. Was going to be sending physicians from CDC, U.S. Health and Human Services, as well as the Department of Defense, to help build medical capacity in the FSM. Are they still there? And can you bring us up to speed with what happened?
Well, our cooperation has always been from the beginning with our own health workers, but we have been collaborating with U.S. health folks, CDC and others. Dr. Tane Hancock, who's based in Guam, came in as part of the U.S. delegation to give advice. And we've reached an understanding to give a final push with the vaccination efforts with the U.S. CDC and Department of Health and Human Services. And so that plan is something to be implemented to bring in more professional health workers, at least 5 in each of the 4 states. And we've agreed to it, but it's gonna require some relaxing of our health protocols, because they're so busy that spending 7 days in Guam pre-quarantine and another 7 in any of our states, it's just going to take up a half of the month. And they're being spread so thin throughout the U.S. that's going to be a challenge to be idle. And so we're exploring possibilities of relaxing that. I've had a Zoom conference before I left for Honolulu with our governors to just hone in on this issue, and we're still dealing with it. Some states may be getting some of these professionals coming in with relaxed sort of health protocol in terms of the quarantine process to shorten it, but of course they'll be vaccinated and then tested to be negative before they come into our country, and again tested when they're in country.
In terms of the repatriation flights, is it still just to Pohnpei?
Yes, and then recently to Kushai, correct?
Okay.
So Kushai opened up, and this case had popped by this, dependent. Unfortunately, it's historical. It's been confirmed by the health professional. And then YAP may be opening soon. The governor, as a matter of fact, after our Zoom here, I'll be calling the governor of YAP via Zoom to discuss that. Kushai has already accepted their first direct repatriation. Chuk governor has indicated to me that they might be ready around early September. So we have variation of the preparedness that we have, and I want to respect that because this is something that has to work right for our citizens to make sure that we continue to protect the lives of our citizens, which is very important to me.
Right, and I can see, Mr. President, that that's the priority, right? How does the obvious challenges with rolling out this mandated vaccination program, how's that going to mesh with the potential reopening of tourism into the FSM? And what's your timeline on that?
Yeah, well, Chris, we know that Guam has a very high traffic of tourism. For the FSM, not so. I mean, we get tourism, but not at the rate that Guam does or Hawaii. So that in itself didn't really impact us that severely as far as, economic downturn. We normally get a lot of business travelers into the FSM, and that's what we're dealing with. And so this mandatory requirement now for our citizens, I think it's just going to prop up our efforts to get to a level of herd immunity. And it's not done. I know the heart of our Congress. I know Speaker Simina and the rest of the members, they did this out of care for our citizens. It's not to, encroach on civil liberties and so forth. It's about protecting our small population because a lot of us are still vulnerable through to illnesses, issues of diabetes and all of that. And so when you care about our citizens, I know the heart of our our representatives in our Congress. I had a talk with them, and they originally talked about mandating everyone in the government, but it's gone beyond that out of care and out of how they want to protect our citizens. And so I think this is going to help to push to reach that level of herd immunity that Guam has reached. And again, congratulations to Guam, and we're coming behind that rate, and I think we're going to achieve that towards Christmas. And that's how we can relax some of the health protocols in terms of travel,
Right.
Chris and Sabrina.
Yeah, Mr. President, I feel like the whole world has itchy feet right now, and they all want to travel. That's why I asked about tourism, because I want to go to the FSM, even though I know you guys might not be thinking about that right now. I feel like there's definitely a demand, right, for people to travel, and they might be looking at places that they haven't traveled before.
Oh yes, and I already gave standing invitation to a lot of folks who want to come in, like the Admiral and other folks during the high-level talks. Director of the APCSS, Kumatauta, who's from Guam, Pete, and Mary Tori, who's sort of the interim director of the PITP at the East-West Center. They all want to come around, and so many friends. And we still encourage you to please visit FSM. A lot of good fishing. Serve at the Paligar Pass, and then our historic site, Nanmato, which is a World Heritage. And I coined the term paradise in our backyard because, like Guam, we don't have to travel out of the country to experience paradise, right? It is paradise in our backyard. So you just walk out there and you're in paradise. Otherwise, people from around the world, they spend thousands of dollars to visit our beautiful islands, and I think you know what I'm talking about here.
It sounds like we need to do a link on location,
Yeah,
Mr.
from Dan
President.
Madal. We got to arrange that. It's
Absolutely.
priority.
I wanted to just give you this final word on any message you have to our FSM citizens here on Guam.
Well, you know, our FSM citizens know that we really love our FSM citizens. Sometimes, as a leader of our nation, it takes really tough decisions that may not be so pleasant for our population. But look at it, look at it. We are COVID-19 free. When you see the rest of the world, United States alone, those who subsided to COVID-19 is now more than 6 times our population. You know, those who died and perished. And of course, our sympathies, prayers are with those families who are suffering because of the loss of loved ones. And so it's out of care that we have come in with these decisions. But you see that repatriation has started. So our citizens who are out there, please know that you are constantly being put up on the list, but about 65 or so every flight, and you're on board, you know, as far as I'm concerned. Have patience and know that we care and love you, our FSM citizens, and that's how I would put it. And then when you finally reach home, you're going to realize why this is so important, because we care about your health and your life matters, and these decisions protect lives and save lives. And so, you know, for those who have been repatriated, they're happy to be reunited with their family. Those of you are on coming on to the list, we're going to continue until we get everybody back home to be reunited with their loved ones. So thank you.
Well, thank you,
Yes,
Mr.
Minister.
President. I mean, I know you acknowledge the fact that Guam may have achieved herd immunity, but at the same time, you know, FSM, 0 COVID positive cases, with the exception of the 2 that were historical cases and non-infectious.
Yeah.
So congratulations to you,
Right,
you guys
yeah.
as well.
And congratulations to you, Juan. for reaching-
No, congratulations to you. Oh.
And you know, you can celebrate rightfully
Yeah.
because you've reached that level, and we're just trailing behind you slightly, but we're gonna get there in terms of herd immunity. And then Chris and Sabrina, we look forward to hosting you when you come to any of our states, but especially Bone Bay,
Yeah.
to do some fishing and some of the fun stuff that we normally-
Castellet. Yep. I'm down, Mr. President. Say the word. I'm there. If you need a diplomat or a goodwill mission, I'm so ready.
Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right.
Esta.
Thank you, Kaselelia. And
Okay.
Kaselelia.
to all of you, Guam residents and leaders. Kalangan for having me.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
All right, there you go.
Take
FSM
care.
President David Panuelo. Yeah, regionally with the FSM and Marianas, we've done pretty good. I mean, we lost some people on the way. Let's not forget that. Okay, and I'm here in Guam.